The air is thick and humid, heavy with the scent of damp earth and blooming, unfamiliar flowers. It is 4.7 million years ago. The world is a tapestry of greens and browns, a mosaic of dense woodland and sprawling open savanna. Towering trees, unlike any we know today, cast their dense canopy overhead, leaves filtering the intense African sun into a dappled, shifting light on the forest floor below. Strange birds call from the high branches, their songs a melody lost to time. In the distance, the ground trembles faintly, a sign of immense creatures moving through the landscape. Creatures that are both a source of danger and part of this intricate, ancient ecosystem. Imagine standing at the edge of this primeval forest, looking out across a grassy plain dotted with acacia-like trees. Herds of three-toed horses known as hipparions graze peacefully, their coats shimmering in the heat. Further on, a family of Dinotherus, with their distinctive downward-curving tusks on their lower jaws, strips bark from a tree with methodical strength. The sounds are a symphony of the wild, the buzz of insects, the rustle of leaves betraying a hidden animal, the distant roar of a predator we have yet to see. This is the Pliocene epoch, a time of profound environmental change and evolutionary experimentation, where the very first whispers of our own human story begin to be told. This world was a place of immense biodiversity. The climate was warmer and wetter than today, supporting lush vegetation that provided both food and shelter for a staggering array of animals. Giant hyenas, formidable saber-toothed cats, enormous bears roamed these lands, each a master of its own domain. For any small, unassuming creature, survival was a matter of constant vigilance and deep knowledge of the environment. It was into this vibrant yet perilous world that our earliest known ancestors stepped, beginning a journey of adaptation and discovery that would ultimately lead, millions of years later, to us. We are, in a very real sense, the children of this lost world. In this world of 4.7 million years ago, a remarkable creature was making its way. It was neither ape nor human, but something in between, a fascinating mosaic of ancient and novel traits. Scientists call this species Ardipithecus ramidus, or Ardi for short. Ardi was not a towering figure. She stood at just under 4 feet tall and likely weighed around 110 pounds. Her brain was small, comparable in size to that of a modern chimpanzee. She did not possess the powerful, intimidating canines of a male gorilla or chimp. Instead, her teeth suggest a different kind of social structure, one perhaps less reliant on aggression and dominance between males, a subtle hint of a new social path being forged. Ardi's world was primarily the woodland, a realm of trees and tangled undergrowth. Her long arms and grasping big toes made her an agile and cautious climber, perfectly suited for moving through the canopy. Unlike chimpanzees, she did not knuckle walk. Instead, she likely moved along the tops of branches on the palms of her hands and the soles of her feet, a more ancient form of locomotion. The forest was her sanctuary, her larder, and her refuge from the many dangers that lurked on the open ground below. It was here, amongst the leaves and branches, that she found her food and raised her young. Yet, Ardi was not confined to the trees. Something extraordinary was happening. Her skeleton reveals a pelvis that was broader and shorter than that of a chimpanzee, reshaped to support her upper body in a new way. This was the anatomical evidence for a revolutionary adaptation. She could walk upright on 2 legs. This bipedalism was not the efficient, long-distance stride of modern humans. It was likely a more tentative, shuffling gait, used for shorter periods when she descended to the forest floor. This ability to walk upright, even clumsily, was a pivotal moment in our evolutionary history, freeing the hands for other tasks. The discovery of Ardi, a remarkably complete skeleton found in Ethiopia after years of painstaking excavation, turned many of our long-held ideas about human evolution on their head. Ardi proves that the first steps towards humanity were taken not in the grassland, but in the woods. A day in the life of Ardipithecus ramidus would have been governed by the fundamental needs of survival: finding food, avoiding predators, and caring for offspring. The morning light would have stirred the small social group from their nests high in the trees, where they had spent the night safe from ground-dwelling carnivores. The first order of business was food. Ardi and her kind were generalist omnivores. Their teeth, with relatively thin enamel, tell us they were not specialized for eating tough, abrasive grasses or hard nuts. Instead, their menu would have been wonderfully varied and seasonal. They would have foraged for ripe fruits, a primary source of energy, figs, berries, and other soft, fleshy produce. They moved through the canopy to find them, and their climbing ability would have been essential. But their diet was not limited to fruit. Young leaves, flowers, and perhaps even insects like termites. On the forest floor they might have dug for tubers and edible roots, using their newly freed hands to explore and manipulate their environment. This dietary flexibility was a key advantage in a changing world. Unlike later hominins, Ardi and her kin did not make stone tools. Their technology was likely limited to what nature provided. A stick could be used to probe for insects in a log, a stone could be used to crack open a soft-shelled snail or a bird's egg. This simple, opportunistic use of objects marks the very beginning of a relationship with technology. The ability to walk upright, even for short distances, meant their hands were free to carry these simple tools, or more importantly, to carry precious bundles of food back to a safe location to share with their young or other members of their group. Social life would have been central to their existence. Living in a small group offered protection through shared vigilance. More eyes and ears to detect an approaching predator. The small canine teeth in males like Ardi suggest less aggressive competition among them. This might indicate a more cooperative social structure, perhaps even the beginnings of long-term pair bonding. A mother would have carried her infant, who would cling to her fur as she moved through the trees. The day would end as it began, with the group retreating to the safety of their treetop nests as dusk fell, the sounds of the nocturnal hunters beginning to echo through the forest. Life in the Pliocene was fraught with peril. For a small creature like Ardi, every shadow could conceal a threat, and every rustle in the undergrowth could signal the approach of a deadly predator. The world was populated by a menagerie of formidable carnivores, many far larger than modern relatives. Saber-toothed cats stalked the forests, Meganterian, Dinofelis. Ambush predators of immense power, the only effective defense, avoid them completely. Open ground was a calculated, terrifying risk. The dangers didn't end with felines. Giant hyenas roamed the landscape, jaws built to crush bone. Pack hunters, lone or small Ardipithecus groups were easy targets. Enormous bears also prowled, Agriotherium. Opportunistic omnivores, a serious threat. Rivers and waterholes hid danger too. Giant crocodiles lurked beneath the surface, waiting to strike at any animal that came close. Survival required instinct and local knowledge. For Ardi, trees were sanctuary. Climbing quickly and efficiently wasn't just food gathering, it was survival. At the first sign of danger, a scent on the wind, a sudden alarm call from a bird, she and her group scrambled for high branches, putting themselves beyond the reach of most ground predators. They built sleeping nests in trees, a behavior echoed by modern great apes. Night made them most vulnerable. The canopy was their fortress. Every day tested awareness, knowledge, and luck. The story of Ardi and her world is not a work of fiction. It's actually a narrative painstakingly pieced together from clues that have been locked in the earth for millions of years. The primary evidence comes from fossils, which are basically the mineralized remains of ancient life. The skeleton of Ardi herself is, honestly, one of the most significant finds in the history of paleoanthropology. Discovered in the Afar region of Ethiopia, it wasn't found as a complete skeleton just lying in the ground. Instead, it was a collection of over 125 fossilized fragments, crushed and scattered. It took a dedicated team of scientists nearly 15 years to excavate, clean, and reconstruct these fragile pieces into a coherent picture of what this individual once looked like. Every single fossil fragment actually holds a universe of information. For example, a piece of a pelvis can tell us about an animal's posture and how it moved, whether it walked on 2 legs or 4. The shape of a foot bone reveals if it was rigid like ours, for pushing off the ground, or flexible with a grasping toe for climbing trees. Ardi's foot, with its divergent big toe alongside features for upright walking, was a revelation, showing a transitional form that scientists had never seen before. The teeth are a particularly rich source of data. Their size, shape, and wear patterns can tell us about an individual's diet, age, and even social behavior, as seen in the small canines of Ardi's species. But the story is not just told by the hominin fossils themselves. Scientists also study the fossilized remains of the plants and animals that lived alongside our ancestors. The discovery of fossilized seeds, petrified wood, and the bones of other animals like monkeys, kudus, and parrots in the same geological layer as Ardi helps us reconstruct her entire habitat. Modern technology allows us to extract even more information from these ancient bones. Isotope analysis, which examines the chemical composition of tooth enamel, can provide precise details about diet and environment. For Ardi, this analysis confirmed the woodland hypothesis. The single most revolutionary aspect of Ardipithecus ramidus is what she tells us about the origins of walking on two legs. For decades, the prevailing theory, the savanna hypothesis, said ancestors moved to open grasslands. Standing upright would have been a major advantage. See over tall grasses to spot predators, carry food, use tools, stay cool in the hot sun. It was a compelling story, but Ardi's discovery challenged it. Ardi combined climbing and walking adaptations. She shows the first steps toward bipedalism happened in woodlands. This was a paradigm shift. Walking upright wasn't a savanna response, it evolved for life in the forest. Why would that help? Perhaps it let Ardi carry valuable, rare foods like large fruits over short ground distances between patches of trees. It freed her hands to gather and transport resources, crucial for supporting herself and her offspring. Her skeleton beautifully illustrates this transition. Her pelvis was a mosaic, upper part broad like later hominins, providing attachment points for gluteal muscles to stabilize the trunk for walking. The lower part remained ape-like, with attachments for big leg muscles used in climbing. Side-by-side comparison of chimpanzee, Ardipithecus and modern human pelvises shows Ardi's intermediate shape. Her foot was equally remarkable. A grasping big toe for secure tree movement, but other foot bones were more rigid, forming a lever for push-off in bipedal walking. She was literally taking a new step in evolution. This discovery makes us rethink what it means to be human. It decouples bipedalism from tool use and big brains. Those came millions of years later. The first defining trait of our lineage was a new way of moving. Ardi shows evolution isn't a straight march of progress, it's a complex experiment where traits arise for one purpose and later get co-opted for another. While Ardi's body was undergoing a physical revolution, her mind was also being shaped by the complex demands of her world. Her brain was small, no larger than a chimpanzee's, so we cannot speak of human-like intelligence or consciousness. However, survival in the Pliocene required a sophisticated cognitive toolkit. She would have needed a detailed mental map of her territory, remembering the locations of fruiting trees, reliable water sources, and safe nesting sites. This spatial memory would have been crucial, especially as seasons changed and different resources became available in different parts of the woodland. Social intelligence would have been equally vital. Living in a group, as Ardipithecus almost certainly did, requires the ability to navigate a complex web of social relationships. It means recognizing individuals, understanding hierarchies, forming alliances, engaging in cooperative behaviors. The reduced size of the male canines in Ardi species is a tantalizing clue. It suggests a shift away from overt physical aggression between males for access to females. This could point towards more cooperative social dynamics, perhaps even the beginnings of male provisioning, where males would share food with females and their offspring. The ability to adapt was perhaps their greatest mental asset. The Pliocene was a time of significant climate fluctuation. Woodlands could expand and contract, and food sources could appear and disappear. A creature that was too specialized, relying on only one type of food or habitat, would have been at high risk of extinction. Ardi's generalist diet and her ability to move both in the trees and on the ground gave her a crucial flexibility. This adaptability, the ability to solve new problems and exploit new opportunities in a changing environment, is a hallmark of the primate lineage, and it would become the driving force of human evolution. We must be careful not to project our own thoughts and feelings onto these ancient relatives. Their minds were not like ours. They did not ponder their existence or create art, yet in their daily struggle for survival we can see the cognitive foundations being laid for what was to come. The need to remember, to cooperate, to innovate with simple tools, and to adapt to a changing world. All of these mental challenges were a form of evolutionary pressure, setting the stage for the dramatic expansion of the brain that would occur in their descendants millions of years later. For all that Ardi and other fossils have taught us, our picture of this ancient world remains full of shadows and unanswered questions. The fossil record is incredibly sparse and fragmented. For every individual like Ardi that we find, there are millions, perhaps billions, who left no trace at all. We have a few precious snapshots from a history that lasted for millennia, and the vast stretches in between are still shrouded in mystery. We know Ardipithecus existed, but we know very little about the true diversity of hominins at this time. Were there other similar species living in different parts of Africa? It is almost certain there were, but their fossils have yet to be found. One of the greatest mysteries revolves around their social behavior. The small canines are a powerful clue, suggesting a reduction in male-on-male conflict, but what did this truly mean for their daily lives? Did they form pair bonds, similar to modern humans, with males and females cooperating to raise young? Or was their social structure something else entirely, a form we have no modern analog for? How large were their groups? How did they communicate? They would have used vocalizations and body language like other primates. But we can only speculate about the complexity of their calls or the meaning of their gestures. These are questions that bones alone cannot easily answer. The transition from a creature like Ardi to the next well-known stage of our evolution, the Australopithecines like Lucy, is also unclear. Lucy lived more than 1 million years after Ardi, and was a much more committed biped, with feet that had lost their grasping ability. What happened in that million-year gap? What evolutionary pressures drove the final commitment to life on the ground? What environmental changes occurred that favored a creature who had given up the safety of the trees? This is a critical chapter in our story, and for now, most of its pages are blank, waiting for future discoveries to fill them in. These are the profound questions that continue to drive paleontologists back into the field, searching for the next fossil fragment that might hold a new clue to our own origin story.